Mishcon Academy digital sessions.
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in Mishcon's Academy digital presentations. This one on the impact of Brexit on Asian business. I'm delighted to be joined by my guests this morning, my guest panelists. Tim Skeet, who is the Senior Advisor at the Bank of China UK branch. Matthew Rous, who is the CEO of the CBBC. Sebastian Remøy, who is the Executive VP of KREAB. My partner, Tahirah, who is head of our Singapore office. And Sarah Houghton, who is the head of Mishcon's competition group, based here in London. So firstly, Sebastian, may I ask you, what are the political hot potatoes that are bouncing back and forth between Number 10 and EU? And if you could also add to what extent they're relevant to Asia business generally.
Yes, thanks, Gary. The political hot potatoes, which are bouncing back and forth between London and Brussels, are four key ones. One is fisheries, and that is the amount of fish that EU fishers will be able to take primarily from UK waters. I'm not sure that's going to have a massive impact on Asian investors unless they're investing in the industry. The second one, which is the level playing field discussions, is a key issue, which basically means that there's been a discussion about how the UK can manage not to upset the EU by subsidizing its industry to an extent that it distorts competition. If Asian investors invest in the UK with the thought to export to the EU from the UK, then it'll very much be an issue for them. The third one is governance, which is how the relationship between the EU and the UK will be managed. Will it be a single overarching undertaking, or will it be lots of different agreements? And the fourth area that was entered, I think on the 9th of September, was the internal market bill, which shocked the EU side quite considerably because it basically indicated an intention to breach the Northern Ireland Protocol and the withdrawal agreement. And that, to a certain extent, threw into question the whole idea that there would be a future relationship or an agreement between the EU and the UK on the future relationship.
I'm going to move to Sarah and ask her, as we sit here today, where are we with things like brand rights, which I know are internationally important and certainly to Asian business?
Brand rights are probably one of the areas with some reason to be optimistic. There has been a high degree of agreement already. So many of the IP protections remain as they are. What will happen going forward is that there will be parallel regimes in the EU and UK for designs and trademarks. So there will be a need to make dual applications.
If at the stroke of midnight there is no trade agreement, does this mean everyone can do exactly what they want, or has some set of default rules, do they come into play?
The World Trade Organization rules will apply by default. The main principle of that is there's trade without discrimination. So each WTO member, one being the UK, has to grant the same terms to all other WTO members, unless an exception applies, such as a free trade agreement or a customs union.
If there is no negotiated exit, what does that mean for the startup arena in the UK?
I mean, what happens immediately clearly is surrounded, misted in uncertainty. But the interesting thing that we should look at is what do we have to do to attract the right talent, get the right people, have the right ideas, and then implement those ideas and attract investment. Those things are very readily achievable here in the UK. We have all sorts of specialist assistance and help. I'm a non-exec on a couple of fintechs, and it's not easy in this environment, but the UK is doing a lot to help them, and we do have the availability of talent, and we do have the availability of investment funds here.
Can I just I'm going to do a quick sort of optimistic, pessimistic temperature check. Matthew, optimistic, pessimistic that things are going to be okay, if not better, after Brexit?
Pretty optimistic, because I don't think Brexit is going to have a very direct impact on Asian businesses trading and investing with the UK. I mean, there is no EU-China free trade agreement to roll over.
And Sarah, just to come back to you.
I think it's a short period of pain, but I think the UK will rally.
Okay. And what are the areas, Matthew, that we are going to rally in? Where are our real strengths that will come to the fore?
Well, first of all, there's the City of London. As has already been mentioned, it's an incredibly strong magnetic pull for Asian businesses. The strengths are not going to change with the English language, the educated workforce, the historical and cultural ties. It's the dominant trading centre for MNB outside Asia. So that's huge, and that's unchanging. The second big factor is the UK's education system, which is second to none. We have 4 of the world's top 10 universities, according to the QS rankings. We've got more Nobel Prize winners per head than any other major economy. It's a fantastic place to hire creative talent, to do your design, to tap into our creative industries, our engineering sector. Our project management skills are second to none. So that's all really, really strong.
China is the leading Asian trading partner at the moment. If you and I look back, or we all look back in 3 years' time, do you think that will still be the case?
Undoubtedly, because we already sell twice as much to China as we do to any other Asian country. It's about 30 billion compared to 15 billion for Japan. And that trend is accelerating on the back of the COVID pandemic.
You can't help but notice the rather unsettling, if I may use that word, bickering between, certainly on the political level, with Huawei and with the BNO passport issue. Do you think that will have any impact on that trade relationship?
We can't take anything for granted, and it's really important that the politicians deal with this in a measured way. But the focus now is very much on the wider regulatory system that may come in, perhaps on the back of Brexit. And I think it's really important that the UK sends out the message that it remains an open and accessible place for foreign investors.
Let me, if I may, pass over to you, Tahirah, and say we've seen that a couple of the Japanese companies, such as Panasonic and Hitachi, some time ago decided to move their regional headquarters. Do you think it will be something that other companies will do in the Southeast Asian region?
No, I mean, unless they have a need to, like in the case of Panasonic or Hitachi or for the Japanese in the automotive industry, I don't think there's a rush for the Southeast Asian companies, which tend to do a lot of commodity-based trading. I don't see a rush for them to set up headquarters in other parts of Europe.
When people in Asian businesses are looking for capital, do you think England will become less attractive for that after Brexit?
No, I don't think that Brexit has an impact on that. In fact, I think London will still remain the center, one of the great financial centers of the world, and certainly in Europe. Asian businesses seek capital from a variety of places. Chinese have the Chinese banks, Chinese sovereign funds, Chinese capital markets, Shanghai, Hong Kong Stock Exchange. These are all companies and areas that have increased in their profile for fundraising in recent years. But that doesn't mean that the US funds do not have a big play in Asia. They do. There are US funds that are based here that have taken over lending that traditionally has been done by banks, and European funds as well. So I don't think that will change.
I'm going to pass to Tim and ask you, because a little birdie tells me you're quite familiar with the German market. Do you think Asian companies are going now to be more attracted to set up businesses in Germany as opposed to the UK?
I hope not. I think not. Germany does tend to be more bureaucratic than the UK. And again, I think what we are all firmly of the belief is that the UK economy is pretty pragmatic and open economy. Germany, of course, is tied into the EU, and the EU is showing increasingly protectionist instincts. There are all sorts of regulations there. There's the language, there's the culture. There are a bunch of things which are not going to be as easy as London, where it's English, the time zone, and the legal system that are much easier for people to navigate, quite frankly.
Okay, and a question for you, Sebastian. Certainly, everyone's heard reference to the Norway agreement. What on earth does that mean, and why is everyone holding it up as the most advantageous kind of deal that England could negotiate?
Well, it's very much off the table now, but it really was, you're right, Gary, it was held up as a possibility, as a way for the UK to continue to participate in the single market, because what it does is it ensures homogeneity in a dynamic way, so that all the regulations between the EU and the EEA-EFTA states are aligned. It would have been strange for a UK that wanted to take back control to opt for the Norway option, because it would have been the opposite of taking back control. However, the deal that's on the table now is still going to require the UK to follow EU legislation, and the UK has said in certain instances it's going to want to diverge. But if UK manufacturers and traders want to trade into the EU, they're going to have to comply. And for Chinese and Japanese and Asian investors who are thinking of using the UK as a launch pad for the EU market, they have to pay very close attention to this.
Can we just look to a different set of suppliers and ignore Europe in the future?
A lot of products, particularly food products, come from the EU that once the UK leave could be quite highly tariffed, and also in the other direction. How easy it is to replace perishable products with imports from markets that are much further away is a question for people to ask themselves.
Do you think that the quality of foodstuffs and the health and safety concerns that China has developed since the one hopes the olden days of having some problems with that, so that they would pass UK health and safety regs in the future?
Oh, standards have gone up very significantly over the last 10 years or so, when it's been an issue of great public concern, as you say, Gary. But really, the trade is the other way. I mean, we are selling from the UK into the Chinese food and drink and wider consumer markets. And the e-commerce boom has greatly accelerated that process.
What do you think are the UK's biggest philosophical challenges in terms of moving forward and shedding the 40-year history of Europe?
We are a little bit still, I think, backward looking, and we need to be pragmatic to look to the future. We need only look at the size of the Chinese economy that came from nowhere to somewhere in 40 years. The Indian economy is going to be, after China, possibly the biggest economy in the next 30, 40 years. So between China and India, you have two enormous economies that we need to engage with, we have to do business with, and we need to find a way.
Just now changing tack a little bit and looking at the attractiveness of the UK real estate market. In the first 6 months of this year, apparently investment into London real estate from Asia increased by about 70%. What does this tell you, Tahirah?
As you know, Asians love real estate as a form of investment. They see it as a tangible asset. And what I can see from my clients, they are not just investing in luxury personal property, but they are also interested, and I've seen this in the last few years, in investing in commercial properties, be it office buildings or be it in the hospitality sector. And so in that sense, Brexit has been a plus, a positive for them, because with the fall in the pound, it has allowed them to snap up bargains. And I see them continuing to invest in real estate in the UK.
What advice do you give Boris as to how we can do as much as we possibly could for the UK out of this crisis?
Face the facts and listen to business, because business is going to have to sort out what really happens in the British economy. And however the politicians feel that they're creating the framework and driving this bus isn't going anywhere without business being on board.
What would you do if President Xi Jinping called you and said, how can you help us in China open our markets and make the most out of Brexit?
This is happening already. President Xi doesn't need my help. China is already opening up. I would just like to see it happening at a much faster pace. I would urge both the Chinese and the UK leadership to engage, to pick up the phone to each other.
I'm going to interrupt you there because my little stopwatch tells me we are 17 seconds beyond our committed period. And so all that remains is for me to really a hearty thank you to each of you for joining us today and for your insight. And thank you to the audience. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye now.
The Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions. To access advice for businesses that is regularly updated, please visit mishcon.com.